It's me, Mario. It's me, Luigi. Except I'm not. It's actually me, Natsume, and I saw the Mario movie starring the Chris Pratt as the Mario because America. Hang on a sec, I forgot to plug my mic. Also, why is my bottle here? Shut down. Speaker too. Just gonna plug this real quick. There we go. Mic check. We on? Okay. So it's been a while since I've done one of these unfiltered reviews. I think the last time I did this was like during the beginning of last year when I was talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. But yeah, the other day I finally saw the Mario movie in theaters with my family. I'm pretty sure everybody was expecting this movie to be totally ass, myself included, given that this is Illumination that we're talking about. And when the cast was announced back in September of 2021, I'd say that's where my expectations sank to the bottom of the ocean.
He's so cool.
Not to mention the last Mario movie that came out in 93 is probably one of the biggest insults to God ever created. I saw that movie when I was 12 and yeah. Look, if you like that movie, good for you. But yeah, that movie is just genuinely awful. I'm sorry to say. And then you have the Teen Titans Go team behind this new movie, Illumination behind this movie, and also video game movies just mostly sucking in general, aside from a few highlights. But yeah, this was bound to suck, personally speaking. And then I saw the trailers and I thought, wait a minute, this might actually be good. My entire family grew up playing Mario. I used to play a lot of Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Mario Kart Wii as a kid. My mother grew up playing the original Super Mario Brothers with her friends, and we all used to play a lot of the 2D, 3D new Super Mario games during the peak of the pandemic. Not to mention that my younger brother basically worships Mario religiously. Like, why else would we have this much Mario merchandise all over our fucking house? So going into the Mario movie, I had no idea what to feel. I was hoping for this movie to be good, to be honest, mostly because I wanted my brother to watch a genuinely good Mario movie. Because if it wasn't, then I would feel so sorry for my brother for the rest of my godforsaken life. And then the reviews came in for this movie, and all of us were starting to get a little extra worried. And now that we've all finally seen the movie for ourselves in a packed theater, chock full of little kids and their families and their Mario plushies, I can confidently say that this movie was actually a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, the pacing is too fast and the story is way too simple. But you know what? I didn't want it any other way. Spoilers for the rest of the review, but come on, the movie's been out for like 2 weeks now. If you haven't seen this yet, I mean, come on. Seriously? So the Super Mario Brothers movie is a remake of the live-action movie from 1993, in the sense that both movies are about Mario and Luigi, who are struggling plumbers in the streets of Brooklyn, where they come across a strange pipe underground that takes them to another dimension. But unlike the live-action movie, where it takes them to Dino Hatton, the new movie takes Mario to the Mushroom Kingdom and Luigi to Bowser's Kingdom. So now Mario has to go rescue Luigi, and there you go. That's the Super Mario Brothers movie from Illumination. I have so many things I want to say about the Illumination Mario movie. I guess to start, this is easily the best movie Illumination has made since the first Despicable Me. Even some of the studio's biggest haters just unanimously agree to that. There's no minions using a fart gun or scanning their butts on a Xerox machine. There's no bunnies pooping jelly beans in front of somebody's car. The marketing for this movie wasn't a complete embarrassment to humanity. You can tell that Nintendo really helped Illumination shake up their style for this one. And it's pretty much starting to show. The animation in this movie is just excellent. It's cinema. It's vibrant and colorful and beautiful to look at without coming off as extremely obnoxious and in your face. And in a time where lots of blockbusters just look like this now. It is a breath of fresh air to have more colorful movies like this for once. The character designs also were in shit for once. I found them surprisingly faithful to the Mario games, and I'm not gonna lie, a bit of a confession. Spike's design in this movie looks straight out of the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movies, so that's a big dub in my book. Christopher Pratt as the Mario was actually pretty decent. I was worried that he was just gonna do the traditional Mario voice for pretty much the whole movie, or at least that's what everybody thought back then. But no, he does it for like the plumbing commercial at the beginning of the movie, and then he basically just does his normal voice for the rest of the movie with like a slight Italian American accent applied to it. There's even like a brief scene during the beginning of the movie when Chris Pratt Mario gets worried that his accent might have been a little too much. But then Charles Martinet's Mario ripoff is like, hey, your accent is perfect. Be proud of who you are. Alright, my man? You got this. Which to me felt like the movie was telling us, hey, our Chris Pratt Mario is not entirely the Mario you know. So there's nothing, and I mean nothing, to worry about. The rest of the voice cast was pretty solid too. Charlie Day is great as Luigi. Anya Taylor-Joy's Peach was great. I loved seeing her able to defend herself and do actual princess stuff instead of being the same old damsel in distress like literally every fucking Mario game except the one spin-off with the sentient umbrella. You guys ever played that? That was for the Nintendo DS. Because if you haven't, it's a very underrated Mario game, and I think it deserves a second chance at the spotlight. Keegan-Michael Key's Toad and Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong were surprisingly way better than I expected them to sound like. I was expecting Keegan-Michael Key to just like emulate the classic high-pitched Toad voice, but that's not what I got, so thank God for that. But perhaps the biggest standout to me and to pretty much everybody else was easily Jack Black's Bowser. That man single-handedly carried the whole movie, to the point where its sole musical number didn't actually make my ears bleed. Who would have thought that giving the movie's musical number to someone who's actually extremely talented at singing would actually work pretty well? And what a surprise, it's now a big hit. But perhaps the movie's biggest standout to me was the fan service. I shit you not, there is fan service everywhere in the Mario movie. Every single scene, even down to the opening logos and the end credits, have fan service. And you know what? It's kind of funny to me how this movie pulled off its fan service better than something like The Book of Boba Fett or Space Jam: A New Legacy. Because you see, what separates the Mario movie from stuff like those, at least for me, is that the fan service is done to make what's essentially a 92-minute love letter to the history of Mario games past and present. Instead of going like, hey, remember Cad Bane from the Clone Wars show? Remember this guy? Remember that guy? Remember all those things you liked from those things? Like, okay, there are times in the Mario movie when they do exactly that. But you know what? I think this movie did that way better. Like, sure, it's not on the same level as No Way Home or anything, but I'd say it's pretty close. There's references to all kinds of different Mario media. Like Mario Kart, Mario 64, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, Super Mario 3D World, Mario and Luigi, Mario and Donkey Kong, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, New Super Mario Bros., that one Mario anime OVA from the 80s, and Donkey Kong Country, among others. And even the music is just filled with fan service. There's like medleys of music from thousands of Mario games, ranging from Super Mario Bros. 3 to Super Mario Galaxy to frickin' Mario Kart 8, and given how the composer for those games was involved, it shouldn't really come as a surprise, but my god, yeah, the music was definitely one of the best parts of this movie. And given that this film's composer is Brian Tyler, whose film scores are usually bland as hell, that's quite an achievement. But let's be honest. If Michael Giacchino or Hans Zimmer was behind the score instead, this would have been the greatest film score of all time. No cap. And while I'm on the topic of the film's music, I'd also like to bring up one of the biggest complaints that we all have with this movie. It's not just me, let's face it, it's everybody else. And that's random, out-of-place 80s pop hit needle drops. I have a theory that most of the needle drops in this movie being 80s hits are supposed to represent how that decade was like the Mario franchise at its prime, given that Super Mario Brothers also came out in the 80s, right around the same time that these songs were popular. But then again, they don't really do anything to drive that theory home, since this film looks very modern for the most part. And it doesn't help the fact that most of these songs are just overplayed to death and were done better in other movies. I Need a Hero went from being a song that was specifically made for a movie, in this case Footloose, to being used in stuff like Loki, Euphoria, Bullet Train, Tetris, Shazam 2, and this movie, all in the span of a couple years. Stop using this song, it peaked in Shrek 2 for fuck's sake. And besides, there are other songs you could be using that also have the word hero in the title. Give the Foo Fighters a chance sometime, will ya? AC/DC, Take On Me, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Mr. Blue Sky. Yep, we now have 2 Chris Pratt movies that have used Mr. Blue Sky for some reason. I think it's very clear we've learned nothing from the Netflix Death Note movie when it comes to 80s pop song needle drops that are just very, very out of place. Although, to be fair, given this is Illumination we're talking about, I think these needle drops could have been a lot worse. We could have heard some Ice Spice or Ed Sheeran at least once during the Mario movies, and signify the end of the world from there. So yeah, overall, I thought the Mario movie was an extremely fun time. Kids will definitely enjoy this, families will definitely enjoy this, but most importantly, I think Mario fans my age are gonna love this movie to death. And yes, my brother definitely enjoyed this. It's basically his Avengers Endgame now, so make that out of what you will. Anyways, yeah, that's all I want to say about the Mario movie for the most part. 6 out of 10. It might go up to a 7 in the future. I don't know. Let's see. Oninatsu. Oh yeah, and I also saw Suzume no Tojimari, or just Suzume, the newest film from the Makoto of Shinkai. The Wes Anderson of anime is back with his brand new film, and it's about the title character, a 17-year-old girl who goes on a journey with this older guy to close a bunch of doors, wreaking havoc all over Japan, all while the guy turns into a sentient chair and they chase this weird-ass cat that's somehow linked to the destruction rampaging throughout the country. I've sorta talked about this movie before in a pitch meeting parody I did a few months back that was supposed to poke fun at how Makoto Shinkai's movies have basically been the same since Your Name. And I think it's no secret by now that I am a big fan of Your Name. It's one of my personal favorite animated films of all time, only behind Spider-Verse and Shrek 2. And it's one of those films I just feel obliged to watch every year, aside from Hot Fuzz. Weathering with You was also decent, even though I think it felt more like a carbon copy of Your Name, with some Spielberg and Miyazaki influences into the mix. But now, Shinkai is back with this brand new movie. I saw it a while back, and yeah, I think this movie is also pretty good. But if you've been keeping up with Shinkai's work since Your Name, yeah, you should know what to expect by now. For example, remember all the random blatant McDonald's product placement in Weathering With You? Well, guess what? McDonald's is back with a vengeance, baby. Because there's just as much blatant McDonald's product placement in this movie as there was in that movie. To the point where Shinkai might be the first director to have specific product placement as a trademark since Edgar Wright's Cornetto ice cream cones. Now that I think about it, this might as well be a trilogy too while Shinkai's at it. This is also one of Shinkai's more mature and personal works, ditching the cute and wholesome fantasy romance stories of his previous 2 works for one that heavily tackles the aftermath of the 3/11 earthquake and tsunami that happened in Japan back in 2011. The stakes and emotions in this movie feel more personal and realistic. You can tell that Shinkai had a lot to say about this disaster in this movie and how it resonated with him personally. And I also loved how this movie focused more on the main protagonist's family and making her relationship with the male lead significantly less platonic than his previous works, which I thought was a nice change of pace. I also thought the animation in this film was also really beautiful, probably more cinematic than Shinkai's previous works, which I think you can tell by now with the letterbox aspect ratio for this one compared to the full aspect ratio for his previous works. He's always finding ways to improve his animation skills in every movie he makes, which goes to show that I think he's come a long way making anime films. And don't worry, you'll totally be cool with Suzume being with his talking chair throughout the movie. We all like to joke about it and all, myself included. But it turns out that this subplot is actually way better with context. I think. Just trust me, bro. Just trust me, bro. Trust me. Overall, I think this movie was a significant improvement over Weathering With You, but not as majestic as your name. But that's not gonna stop Shinkai from trying to recapture the magic of that film anyway. Guess how this film ends? Yep, the two leads splitting up and then reuniting after a couple years. So yeah, in other words, it's a Makoto Shinkai movie. So yeah, that's all I have to say about these two animated films. Go see these movies in theaters and look forward to more videos real soon. Oninatsu.